Starting off with Sonic, we get the most comprehensive view of the story. This is the main event. Sonic arrives in Station Square to find an aquatic monster named Chaos. The Sega Dreamcast had a fast lifespan. Its legacy is written with a nicely sized collection of great games and a strong, dedicated cult following. In early 2001, not even a year and a half after launch, Sega announced that it would be discontinuing the Dreamcast within the year, making its lifespan just over 2 years. When Sonic Adventure 2 was being produced, Sega knew it was going to be the last Sonic game to come out for a Sega system, and the timing couldn't be better. For Sonic's 10th anniversary, they wanted to go all out. Like the relation to Sonic 1 and 2, Adventure 1 was developed by Sega of Japan, and Adventure 2 would be developed by Sega of America. Even at this point, the goal for Sonic Adventure 2 would be to bring Sonic back to his roots, and focus more on action as the classic games did. Gone would be the overworld, and the focus would turn from the story to the gameplay. Sega wanted Adventure 2 to mimic an American vibe, with references to American film and locations. City Escaped is based off of San Francisco, where Sega of America's office was located at the time of the game's development. When the game was announced at E3, only Sonic, Knuckles, Eggman, and a teaser of Shadow was shown. There would be no Rouge or Tails gameplay. They were added later on after fan outcry. Sonic Adventure 2 was released worldwide on June 19th, 2001. New features include 2-player versus gameplay, an expanded Chao Garden with Dreamcast VNU and Game Boy Advance compatibility, being able to play as Dr. Eggman, 2 new characters, new abilities, and 2 truly interconnecting storylines. The theme of the game would be light versus dark. Instead of each character having their own story, you'd play through the hero story and the dark story separately, illustrating each side of the narrative from different points of view. The hero story starts off with Sonic escaping from a military helicopter. After probably murdering all of the personnel, Sonic rolls around at the speed of sound, escaping a truck, and then he beats up a robot. Afterwards, he meets Shadow, who jogs right by Sonic. Sonic figures out that Shadow uses the Chaos Emerald to run fast, and then Shadow uses a move called Chaos Control to teleport out of there. Sonic gets recaptured by the military. Fast forward to Knuckles, who is not on Angel Island guarding the Master Emerald. Instead, he's discussing who truly owns the Master Emerald with a drawing from the character designer's private sketchbook that was mistaken for game production notes. Eggman sees that Knuckles is distracted and takes the opportunity to try to steal the Master Emerald. And instead of trying to get it back, Knuckles punches it so hard that it shatters. And of course, it doesn't just shatter around the tiny little area they're in, but all around the Earth. Knuckles goes looking for the missing pieces. Next, we see Tails flying towards Prison Island to rescue Sonic. He sees Eggman approaching Amy, who is there for the same reason. Tails beats up Eggman and they go into the prison to rescue Sonic. Amy lets Sonic out, who runs away from the military base, hops on a missile that leads him to a platform in the middle of the ocean, where I guess he kind of teleports to the middle of the rainforest, because it was in the middle of the ocean, and last time I checked, Sonic can't swim. He sees Shadow, and for whatever reason, they call each other a fake hedgehog. And because their hedgehog masculinity is so fragile, they fight. Over Shadow's radio, Eggman tells Shadow to leave the island before it blows up. Tails, Amy, and Sonic all escape before the island does. Go back to Knuckles, where he finds a few more pieces of the emerald. Eggman announces over TV that he has a super weapon, and open fires on the moon. Half of the moon is destroyed, and the biggest inconsistency in Sonic ever is created. Okay. So, Sega says the reason why we never see the moon blown up in other Sonic games after this is because we're viewing another side of the moon, when in fact the moon rotates at the same rate that it revolves around the Earth. Because of that, we only ever see one side of the moon from Earth. It's called tidal locking. Thanks, AST 1002. Tails runs around the city, Knuckles finds more emeralds in some mine, and then he meets up with the rest of the crew. Tails drives up close to the president's car, and then Eggman demands that President Bushton surrender to the Eggman Empire, or his country will cease to exist. And because the president was making this top secret call with the goddamn window open, Sonic hears it and says, "No way!" and jumps into the car. Sonic and Tails find out that Eggman was transmitting his signal from the space colony, Ark. And yes, I too was able to determine that because the signal was coming from space, Eggman's secret base on Earth must be in Egypt. There, Knuckles finds 3 keys to unlock Eggman's base, and he fights a ghost.
Huh?
Why? They break into Eggman's base and steal a shuttle. On the spaceship, Knuckles gets frustrated and accidentally releases the pieces of the Master Emerald he had into space. The crew then develops a plan to use the fake emerald that Tails created to throw off Eggman, who needs all 7 Chaos Emeralds to power the Eclipse Cannon, the super weapon on the Ark. Knuckles goes off and finds more emeralds on a meteor and fights. How the heck did you guys find my DeviantArt? She slips and almost falls into some lava, and even though she clearly has wings, Knuckles has to save her. Then Rouge gives Knuckles this look. Yo. Eggman kidnaps Amy and demands that Tails and Sonic give over the emerald they have. Sonic tries to give Eggman the fake emerald, and Eggman's like, "Do you think you could fool me with that fake emerald?" And Tails is like, "How did you know it was a fake?" And Eggman responds, "'Cause you just told me." Sonic sneers at Tails like, "Tails, you stupid piece of shit." But he keeps his cool and says, "Take care of Amy." Sonic gets launched out into space and Tails beats up Eggman. Sonic attempts to use Chaos Control and is able to use it with the fake emerald. Sonic runs around and finds Shadow, who's like, "I have to kill you." Sonic beats up Shadow and places the fake emerald in the Ark, saving the day. Hey look, he's looking at you. He's looking at you. Heading over to the Dark Story, we see Eggman breaking into a gun facility. There, he finds Shadow, his grandfather's secret project. Shadow introduces himself as the ultimate life form, whatever that means, and for releasing him, Shadow promises Eggman a wish as long as Eggman brings him Chaos Emeralds to eat. And also, Eggman has to meet him on the space colony Ark. Then we see Knuckles and Rouge. They both go off to find Master Emerald pieces. Eggman goes home after a long day of work and flips on TV to see that Shadow stole a Chaos Emerald. Reporters and the government have now mistaken Shadow for Sonic. Shadow has a flashback to his friend Maria, who was killed by gun soldiers aboard the space colony Ark 50 years ago. He promises her revenge. Shadow confronts Sonic where he jogs by him slowly. Rouge breaks into Eggman's base while Eggman and Shadow go into space. Shadow explains to Eggman that the Ark has a super weapon called the Eclipse Cannon, but they need the Chaos Emeralds to use it. Rouge gets caught in Eggman's base and tempts Eggman and Shadow by telling them where there are 3 Chaos Emeralds. They all go to Prison Island, Rouge steals the emeralds, Eggman gets beat up by Tails, and Shadow lays down explosives to blow up the island. Shadow sees Sonic, they call each other fake hedgehogs, and then they fight. Eggman yells at Shadow to get off the island before it blows up! But first he rescues Rouge, because he's a nice guy like that. The island blows up, and you, as a 6-year-old kid playing this for the first time, realized you just killed thousands upon thousands of people. Eggman fires the Eclipse Cannon at the moon, and then Rouge and Shadow try to track down the last Chaos Emerald, which Tails has. They fail. All of the heroes infiltrate Eggman's base, and Eggman has to fight this guy. They head into space, Rouge fights Knuckles, and the sexual tension gets too intense to watch any longer. Eggman kidnaps Amy, sends Sonic into space, and then Shadow questions Rouge on being a government agent. He's like, "Rouge, are you a government agent?" And then Rouge is like, "Yeah, but are you even the real Shadow?" Shadow's like, "Alright, but I have to go beat up Sonic." Then Shadow's like, "Yo, Sonic, respect for using Chaos Control." They fight. Someone wins. In the final story, after entering all 7 Chaos Emeralds into the Eclipse Cannon, a secret message is played from Dr. Eggman's grandfather. He says that once all 7 Chaos Emeralds are entered into the cannon, the Ark will crash into Earth, wiping out humanity. And that this is revenge for Maria being killed 50 years ago. All the heroes and villains are like, "Oh no, we can't let that happen." So everyone, but Shadow and Amy, work together to stop the Ark from falling. Shadow's like, "I'm okay with everyone dying." Until he realizes Maria didn't want people to die. Shadow's like, "Oh, she didn't want me to kill everyone. Okay." He gets down to the bottom of the ship where there is a replica of the Master Emerald Shine from Sonic Adventure 1. There, a giant fucking lizard comes out of nowhere, and Shadow's like, "He's not the ultimate life form. I am." Shadow beats up the giant fucking lizard. Then Knuckles uses the Master Emerald to stop the Chaos Emeralds. But then the giant fucking lizard uses Chaos Control to teleport itself outside the ship. And Shadow's like, "Is that what Chaos Control is?" I guess the line just sounded cool because he clearly did know what it was. Then Sonic and Shadow are like, "We have to stop him because we've lived and learned." They go super and beat up the Bio Lizard by popping his gross ass pimples. No, seriously. Shadow's then like, "I must go. My home planet needs me." And the game is like, they all get along temporarily. The end. And at this point, this final image in the game became every 12-year-old's desktop wallpaper. Okay, where do I begin? The story is certainly fun, but by no means is it Good. If Gunn raided the Ark and killed Maria and had Shadow under custody, why did they mistake Sonic for Shadow? If Amy proved herself in Sonic Adventure, why did she get kidnapped again, and why didn't she help at the end of the game? If Rouge was working for Gunn, why did she let Eggman blow up Prison Island and kill possibly thousands of soldiers? If Maria was so important to Shadow, how come he didn't remember her last words, or why did Shadow think Maria would want him to murder everyone? Why is a lizard Shadow's prototype? What does the ultimate life form mean? But most importantly, why did I enjoy this story? I think it's because it was different. Sonic Adventure really feels like a big, grand adventure. It's fun and lighthearted. But Sonic Adventure 2 is dark, and even at the end, it's not upbeat. It feels like the second entry of a trilogy, but it's not a part of a trilogy. I think that's why so many people want to see a Sonic Adventure 3. I also think a reason why I enjoy the story is because of the character interaction. The pairings are fun, and you see the characters act in ways that they hadn't in previous games. You see Sonic get frustrated. He attacks Shadow without being provoked. Tails and Eggman work together. Knuckles, a character who has been living alone on a deserted floating island his whole life, meets a promiscuous and flirtatious treasure hunter. The whole story seems like an adventure too. It's linear. And like so many adventure stories, there's a map laid out for you so you can follow the character's progression. It keeps its momentum, which is something Adventure 1 failed to do. And what helps maintain a fast-paced and energetic feeling is the soundtrack, which many people will agree with me when I say it's one of the best Sonic soundtracks. So here to talk about Sonic Adventure 2's music, StephenKnux.
The music of SA2. Well, it's something special. Alright, look, my name is StephenKnux, and Multidimensional was most definitely snubbed at the Grammy Awards. What sets this soundtrack apart from what you're used to in 2001 is that there's a great amount of character personality. In SA1, you have the epic film score-like sound signifying grand moments and adventure. The soundtrack was varied with instruments, feelings, and scope to give Sonic a grand jump into 3D. The benefit of SA2 is that since it doesn't have to rely on being the gigantic first impression, it can explore other areas of music, most notably vocal themes in regular stages.
Rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Can't stick around.
We've never seen that before with Sonic, and we never will. Knuckles has raps to continue his chill, tough persona from SA1.
I ain't gonna let it get to me, I'm just gonna creep. Down in Pumpkin Hill, I got to find my little speeds. I know that it's...
Rouge introduced with relaxed jazz composition to illustrate her smooth, sexy personality. Shadow and Sonic with intense guitar melodies because high-speed action. And Tails and Eggman with more of an industrial electric guitar sound. A lot of the tracks are pretty recognizable, especially the lead track, Live and Learn. I'm sure you've heard this song. SA2 soundtrack is nostalgic as hell, does every character justice, and rightfully deserves its place in the Sonic Hall of Fame, if that exists.
Thanks, Steven. So even though there are 6 different characters in-game, the gameplay is only broken down into 3 unique types. First, Sonic and Shadow. We get a great selection of levels, all of which provide the essentials for Sonic: fast action gameplay and cinematic moments. I have to say, City Escape may be one of the best openings to any Sonic game ever. The music, the level design, the opening cutscenes, and the truck set the mood for how Sonic will play. Where the gameplay doesn't shine is within the boss battles. The camera is locked down and nearly out of your control, creating a locked-in environment that's hard to maneuver. The wall running mechanic in this game feels better than it did in Sonic Adventure, and the inclusion of rail grinding and the more quickly accessed light dash allows Sonic to keep moving forward without having to stop. Sonic and Shadow are given a somersault ability which is used to go under things and easily destroy boxes. However, it's the same button as the spin dash, so using the spin dash while running becomes nearly obsolete. Levels like City Escape, Radical Highway, and Green Forest have become some of the best levels in the franchise history, and it illustrates the potential the series has. I enjoy every moment when I play as Sonic and Shadow. Truthfully, every moment. So moving on to Rouge and Knuckles, we see the game slow down significantly. Just like in Sonic Adventure, Knuckles' gameplay is centered around hunting for the missing pieces of the Master Emerald. But in Adventure 2, the radar only shows one emerald at a time, so even if you're right next to the wrong emerald shard, the radar won't go off. The small levels and the levels that are easily traversed are fun, but the larger levels can take up to 20 minutes to complete, and the emeralds are in random locations every time, so even if you've played through the game, you have to search for them. Speedrunning's almost impossible. The camera in-game is terrible, and when you're going through small corridors looking for emeralds, it becomes evident how truly atrocious it is. Levels like Aquatic Mine have tons of underwater corridors that you can drown in, and when the camera makes it hard to even play through, it's more unfair than truly challenging. Mad Space has transitioning gravity between different planetary bodies. The gravity mechanic is incredibly frustrating because the control scheme changes when gravity changes. I can confidently say that these two levels are some of the worst in the franchise's history. And it's weird to note because as a kid, my least favorite level was Security Hall, because there was a 5-minute time limit. But now it's one of my favorites because it does a good job with keeping the gameplay fast. Finally, we get to Eggman and Tails, who attempt to recreate Gamma's gameplay style from Sonic Adventure. But they miss the ball pretty hard because the gameplay is significantly slower, and even though their mechs don't platform well, a lot of their gameplay requires platforming. In order to rack up points, you have to lock onto multiple enemies before shooting them. I have to admit that unloading on these enemies actually kind of feels good. You stupid piece of shit. The only truly fun level I would say is Cosmic Wall, in which Eggman's jet boosters can be used without limit due to the low gravity. But besides that, these levels aren't too overly frustrating, but they're not fun either, they're just kind of there. Players are also given the option to go through levels to perform alternate missions. This includes collecting 100 rings, finishing the level in a certain amount of time, a hard mode, etc. Another new feature in the game is the ranking system.
Maybe I didn't try hard enough.
By finishing the level in a good time and by performing some sweet moves, you earn points. And sometimes these point notifications can be sarcastic assholes. The more points you get, the more likely you are to get a good ranking. By getting A rankings for all the characters, you unlock alternate costumes for the 2-player mode. And some of them are... well... The 2-player versus mode basically boils down to racing, hunting treasure, and shooting the heck out of each other. There's also a bare minimum kart racing mode based on the kart segments from the game. The 2-player mode is a good way to kill 20 minutes, but the real replayability comes from the Chao Garden. The Chaos originated in Sonic Adventure, and although you can raise them in that game, Sonic Adventure 2 has much more diverse options. Players play through levels to collect rings which can buy them items. Enemies in-game either drop a colored battery or a baby animal. By giving Chaos one of these, they'll have their abilities raised and take on physical attributes of the animals. If you raise them nicely with hero characters or dark characters, they can turn into either a hero or a dark Chao, and you can actually have them change physical features depending on which attributes are stronger. You can unlock different gardens that correlate to hero and dark, and you can also take them with you via the Game Boy Advance link cable. I've killed too many hours of my young life playing this game for the Chao Garden. Sega, whatever you do, please do not bring back the Chao Garden. I will never get anything done. But hey, if you want to, please bring it back. I have trouble articulating my overall thoughts for this game, because the Sonic and Shadow levels are great, and they earn being fun. It's not a situation where you have to look past huge flaws. But then the shooting levels can be boring, and the treasure hunting levels are abysmal and really slow down the game, and not in a way that complements the pacing. It's truthfully a game that I can't give an overall consensus to, because the good parts are too good for it to be considered bad, but the bad parts are too bad for it to be considered good. It kind of just exists. Sonic Adventure 2 was the last Sonic game released for a Sega console. It marked the end of an era, but it also marked the beginning of a new one. In December of 2001, Sonic Adventure 2 was re-released as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the Nintendo GameCube. Sega had shaken hands with Nintendo and allowed me to experience the game. I have a lot of fun memories playing Sonic Adventure 2. In fact, it's one of my favorite games. In December of 2002 for Christmas, I got a Nintendo GameCube along with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. And before I had a GameCube, I had a Nintendo 64. So the concept of a memory card was kind of foreign to me. Every time I boot up the game, I hear Sonic say, "Did you insert a memory card?" I played that game to no end, and I committed it to memory. The first time I ever beat Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, I did it without ever saving. This game means a lot to a lot of people, and it was an entrance point for a lot of people into the series. And although I do not think as a whole it should be considered a good game, I understand the importance it has within the series, and I think it really has impacted it positively. And even though as an individual standalone title, I don't think it's considered good, I think it ultimately did good for the Sonic series. And at the end of the day, I think that's more important than being an individually good title.